Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of week 3. In this lesson, we're going to look at strings in Python. My name is Mildred. In Python, when we write any value and that value is surrounded with single or double quotes, that value is of data type string. Let's say first name is equal to, I'll use double quotes, John is equal to, I'll use single quotes though. Now, by standard, you should use the same quote in your file just to make it neat, but it works. I just want to demonstrate that single or double quote is a string. Even if they're numbers, once they are quoted, it is of data type string. We can print out this string or concatenate it to string using a plus sign. Let's say we want to have full name is equal to first name plus, we want a space between first and last name plus last name, right? And then we can now say print, and so when I run this, we'll have John Doe printed here. There is another way you can write strings. Let's say you want to write a short story, for instance, and this string spans multiple lines, just like we have multi-line comments. We can write our string to span multiple lines like this. Let's say I want to write a string and save it in a variable called my sentence, and my sentence is, I can use triple quotes, either single or double quote. So let's try with double quote first. Let's say has. So we have this string, and I decide to write this string using 3 quotes for multi-line string. Now this is going to print out fine. In Python, wherever you put your line break is how it's going to print out. So let's print my sentence so we can see that. So we see the line breaks are exactly where we put them in that string. We can also use single quotes rather than double quotes. Let's say another sentence. So we have this text and we use a single quote, single triple quote to show the multi-line text. Alright, and so we can print this out, and we're printing another sentence. Alright, so we've seen how to use this. Now let's illustrate the escape character. Let's say I have a sentence. I'm going to comment this out. Let's say I have a sentence and I use single quotes. Now we can see that there's an error. After the apostrophe, Python doesn't know what to do with the rest of the text, because now it sees the end of this quote as the apostrophe. And so this is going to result in an error. For this, you can do one of two things. Either you change this to a double quote, the surrounding quote, so that no quotes inside this statement matches the surrounding quotes, and then you have no problem. But in the event you use single quotes, you want to use an escape character. Escape is you put a backslash before the offending character to make it correct. And when we print my sentence, we'll have it printed correctly without an error. So always remember that the surrounding quotes should not match any quote within your sentence or within the string. After that surrounding quote ends, everything after it will now be seen as an error. And so you want to prevent having that error by using the escape character, which is the backslash. So let's look at string methods. Now there are many ways you can manipulate string. Now there are several string methods. We'll just look at a few, and then you can research the rest and see how they are used, what they are used for. Let's say for instance I write this name in all lowercase and I want to print full name. Now full name is all in lowercase. Alright, we want to do something else. We want to use a method to make sure that the first letter of each of this word is in uppercase, because it is a name of a person. As this is a name, we want to use a method to make the first letter to be uppercase, and so we use the title method. And how we use a method is to use a dot and then the name of the method and a pair of parentheses. So when I put the title like this, it's going to make the first letter of the names to be in uppercase. And now when we print full name, we'll have John with J in uppercase and Doe D in uppercase. Let's say we want to convert the whole string to an uppercase. Then we change this title to upper, and let's change this to upper, and we'll have it printed out all in uppercase. Let's say that this name are in uppercase already, and we want to make it in lowercase. We'll change this upper to use the lower method, and then this is going to be printed out all in lowercase. There is another method that works like the lower, called the case fold, but the case fold is a little different in the sense that it's a little more aggressive than the lower method. You will see this difference mostly if you have like special characters or symbols in another language then the case field is able to convert to lower more than the lower method is going to convert that to lower. So for instance, maybe you have password requirements for your site, and the requirement specifies that the password characters must be alphanumeric, which means it must have numbers and letters. And at the back end, the processing script you write will have this verification that will check if the password fielding is alphanumeric. And how do you do that? Let's say I have student ID. I'll say ABC123, and if I say print, and I want to see if it's alphanumeric, I want to print to see is this alphanumeric or is it numeric or others. So let's use this to say print student ID dot, and now use is alnum. So this is the method. So we have a student ID variable, and we want to see if the student ID is has an alphanumeric value. It will print true if it is true and false if it is not true. And so we have true because it contains numbers and letters. We want to see if it's all alphabet, we'll say it's alpha like this, and print false because it has numbers. Let's say we want to see if it's numeric, for instance, we'll use is numeric, and we'll have false because it is alphanumeric. We want to see if it's in uppercase, we want to ask is upper, and then we'll have true because it's in uppercase. Is lower will be false because it is in uppercase. And then we want to see if it is a digit, so we can now say is digit. So there's a long list of methods for strings. You have a methods to find, to replace, to strip slashes and all that. I want you to research more and read deeply about string methods so that you will have an understanding of what exists, and when you have to solve programming problems, you will easily apply a string method rather than create a new method. So let's look at how to slice string. Now we have strings like this, and we know that a string is like index is like an array, indexing from 0. So the first is at index position 0, second is at index position 1. We'll do an example so you can understand. Let's say my string is equal to, and I have welcome to, right? So let's say this is my string. I want Python programming to be the only thing printed out to the screen. So we want to count the index position of where Python programming starts. Python programming starts from 24 to the end, and we want to find the length of the string. So let's print out the length to know where it ends, and then we see the length of the string is 43. This programming will end at index position 30, but the last is always not inclusive, and so we have to go one higher than the last to be able to print out Python programming. And so we want to print out only Python programming. There's something we call slicing, where we specify a start and an end separated by a colon. And so we'll say my string, and then we'll have a square bracket like this, and then the start we say Python start at 24 and it ends at 30, and because the last is not inclusive, we will put 31. You have to go one higher than the stop position because the last is not inclusive. And when we run this, we have only Python printed here. So we want to print down to the end, so we would write from 24 to 43, and then we have Python programming. We want it 42, and then we'll remove the exclamation mark. So this is how we do slicing. But if we are just doing 24 to the end, there is no need to put an end index. You just put a column like this, and it will print from Python to the end. If you want it to print from the beginning up onto Python without programming, you can put from the beginning to start. So Python is 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. You have to go one higher, 30. So you want it to go from 24 and it goes to, let's say, 31. Let's say put a space at the end, but you can stop at welcome to Python. So put 30 and welcome to Python without a space. So to omit the start, if you want to start from the beginning, omit the end if you want it to go from the start position to the end of the text. Then we have negative indexing and how to reverse a string using negative. So now the last index is always -1. If I want to print -1, so it's going to print the exclamation mark because the last item is -1. But when I want to reverse the string, I will use a double colon before the -1, and then it will reverse the string completely. If I want to say I want to use the negative slicing to print out, let's say I want to print out Python programming negative way from -19 to the end, I need to print Python programming. If I want to print from -19, I want to specify the end index, I can put to -1 because the last is always excluded, so it will print without the exclamation mark. So always note that you have to go one index higher than the last because the last is always excluded. So if you want to print from index position 2 to index position 5 inclusive, you have to make sure you specify 2 and end at 6 so that you can print 5. Alright, so we do it like this for negative slicing. So you just count from -1 backwards, Alright, so the same method but just counting from behind. So this is where we end this lesson. Thank you and see you in the next lesson.